previously on Keep and Destroy.
Hi Adam, thanks for having me on. It's really cool to be on. I've really enjoyed the series so far, and getting a perspective from lots of different fans on all different far-stretching corners of the Anderson universe. So I feel quite privileged to be sat in the hot seat today, ready to talk some of the shows up and absolutely slap some of the others down.
Brief, man, brief.
Hello again and welcome to Keep and Destroy. This is your host, Adam Luff. This is the Gerry podcast where I interview the fans and ask what 5 they want to keep and what 5 they want to destroy. So let's begin with part 2 of Dave Munday's interview. Right, now that's the end of the keep list, so we'll now begin the destroy list. So what's the first thing that you want to destroy, Dave?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to destroy is Stingray episode Sea of Oil. Now, I'm probably being a little bit harsh on this kind of whole episode, just for kind of like one line of dialogue that just annoys me. It's all summed up in the first few minutes when Stingray arrives at the oil rig to respond to the problem that's been going on, and Troy introduces Marina to Preston, who, upon finding out that she can't speak, basically says she's the perfect woman. I don't know. At the time, it makes complete sense. Contemporary audiences, I totally get it. But watching it with young daughters, it's kind of like, I don't really want them thinking that that's fine. Because this is the weird thing. But why does Atlanta stand there and not go, excuse me? Because I do think that sometimes when people say acceptable at the time or whatever, it's true to a point. But in terms of who the joke is at the expense of, I'm pretty sure that women in the 1960s didn't actually find that funny. It's just that no one was interested in what they had to say on the subject. So I just think it's really odd that because we know what Atlanta's like. Atlanta is a very fiery character. She always likes to have her say.
What do you think this is, the Boy Scouts?
Once you get started, you really go on
You know
and on.
something, Troy?
So I just think it's a bit weird that she doesn't kind of stand up and be like, actually, do you know what? That's not really a very fair comment, So it's not just about the treatment of women. It's about the treatment of Atlanta's character. It just kind of feels weird that she would just say nothing at that point.
My guess is because it's a civilian, she sort of has to keep responsibility as far as a WASP officer and not, attack, shall we say, a civilian.
Yeah.
So
Marina comes from the sea, Prez. She can't talk.
A silent woman, huh? That's even better.
Oh, why don't you shut up?
This episode, I quite liked it when I was a kid, and I still think the wider episode is decent. The only thing that I think that they thought they were trying to be progressive with this, because they do offer Atlanta an opportunity to actually have quite a big kind of role in the plot, and they do exactly the same with Marina, so they have done some things right there. It just feels a little bit misguided that in an episode where they allow the female characters to kind of spread their wings and have a say in the outcome of the conflict. It would have actually been even better if Atlanta had that opportunity to be like, well, just because she can't talk, doesn't mean she's perfect. That's the kind of treatment it would receive now, of course.
I don't know where I would rank it, but I really do like this episode. The oil rig destruction at the beginning is one of the best moments in Stingray, and the Ghost of the Sea had a similar sequence with the other oil rig. But I never liked that one because it kind of looked like a pop-up pirate. It would just jump up, wouldn't it? Whereas I like Sea of Oil, how it kind of folded in on itself and the explosion afterwards. That's a great moment, that one. Even though I like the twist of peaceful aliens in the end, I don't think they should have had it as episode 3. Way too early, in my opinion, especially because we've had 2 episodes with Titan and his Aquamphibians in X-20. These are technically the first alien races that they've met outside of Titan. I didn't think it was a wise idea to have this as episode 3, i.e. the first race that they find. If they just swapped it around, I would have suggested having Hostages of the Deep, then the Ghost Ship, and then maybe have Sea of Oil as episode 5, because you've already had 2 episodes with some other hostile alien races, to then have another race that are just as hostile destroying this oil rig. But oh no, it turns out they're just defending themselves. So I just think it was a great twist, but just too early in the show to have it there.
Yes, it's a good point, isn't it? Because it would feel like more of a twist if you've built up this vast array of like everyone under the sea is evil. It's good that we know that they're not, because obviously we've met Marina. These guys you kind of add into that as well. I mean, my own take on it in terms of the actual episode itself, I remember being kind of a little bit disappointed that they ended up just being nice. I mean, that's just my personal take. I can completely understand how people would enjoy that twist. I just think they're so stupid. Like they just feel so bungling and pathetic and kind of like like, yeah, just annoying. Like they'd be the kind of people that would annoy me if I met them because of how sort of like kind of dim they are. The joke about, oh, we nearly cost you your wives, just it's not funny.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, because why is it they've been speaking really good English up to this point? Why is this one word throws them off? It just doesn't make any sense to me. If they'd just been speaking in broken English, then I could easily see this working. But no, they were speaking really well, received pronunciation, and all of a sudden something as important like lives. Why would that word be unfamiliar with their language? It doesn't make any sense to me.
And it also conveniently be what Atlanta could have, like, do you know what I mean? Like, that it'd be the word wife. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's just somewhat ironic that he says, we nearly robbed you of your wives, when actually, to be honest, Troy probably does actually think they are both his wives. He's such a bigamous weirdo. So, you know, in a way, maybe that's what they were going for, but it's still not funny. It's just not funny. Joe 90 episode Hijacked. Again, this is actually an episode I kind of enjoyed as a kid, but then when I watched it again as an adult, I was just like, I just thought it was ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. And I think that why I dislike this episode is why I really struggled to get on with Joe 90 as a more mature viewer. The last scene is the key one. He's basically just killed like 5 or 6 people, and if we haven't forgotten, he's 9 years old. You know, and you think about how many like works of fiction dwell on the first kill, and you can tell a whole story about what effect that has on a human being. He's 9 years old, he kills 5 or 6 people, and they just sit there in the lounge after the mission, just like, yeah, like, should we have milk for bed? Like, you know, they're talking about it as if like he's just scored a hat-trick in his first game of like football at school. He just killed people, and he's 9. It's utterly ridiculous. And like, and they kind of enjoy it. They're like, oh yeah, well done, Joe. No, take him to emotional counseling or something, please, I beg. It's a cool episode because you get to see him do all this shooting, but really, like, what? That's all I can say. It's just completely bonkers.
Did you see my it wasn't a full-on rant, but did you see my semi-rant at the end of episode 6 where I talked about this? I love it when fans always complain about that aspect. It's make-believe. Get over it. Yeah. That's never bothered me about Joe 90, even though I saw it when it came out on DVD in 2002, so I would have been 16 at the time. So I just look at it as it's like boys' adventure type of thing. I never got in depth with the concept, but fair enough. But no, for me, it's just action adventure, fun romp. But also, in regards to Joe's first kill, because he's got the brain patterns of that agent Johnson, maybe he's killed people. So maybe with his brain patterns, Joe is used to it. So maybe Mario Coletti is not technically Joe's kill. Maybe it's actually Ed Johnson's latest kill.
That's a great way of looking at it. But again, missed opportunities here. I think they really should have focused on what impact so many brain patterns would have. Let's forget that we're even just going to talk about the killing. The fact that he's had like the brain patterns of several different people just dropped in his head, in and out.
Yeah.
You know, it could have made for some really like interesting stuff. But of course, as you say, like the show really isn't really set up for that. It is just set up to kind of capture the imaginings of a boy, which, as I said, as a child, I loved it. This was one of my favorite episodes, and it's got a really iconic score to it as well. The hijack theme that they end up using more and more for United. So there's loads of things I do like about this, but it's just, you know, he's just killed someone, and then it's just like, bath time for you, and that's an order, Joe. Like,
yeah.
No. That's not how you parent someone when they've killed someone.
This is definitely something that would happen if they did do a remake of Joe 90, or even if Big Finish did audios. I can imagine these are the type of things that would get addressed, because you certainly can't avoid it now, because obviously TV is so sophisticated now. It's like with Doctor Who, actually. The whole, classic Who, companions would go off in the TARDIS and they would never look back. Whereas obviously New Who, they're always looking back, because Russell T Davies said it best in an interview. He said, you just couldn't get away with writing that kind of show without asking these questions. So yeah, the whole Joe 90 thing, I can see people from a modern perspective, they would definitely be asking these questions. I totally understand that. But again, like I said before, I just look at it from the context of the 60s. I just let it be.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, one thing I will stress, because obviously there's elements of the shows that I've knocked on this, is like I still love them. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like I feel really happy to kind of point these things out in the same way that you just kind of josh with your best friends. Like I'm obsessed with this franchise. I have been since I was a kid. It's just, I find it really interesting to revisit things that I've been obsessed with for so long with that new head on. I just find that really, that's just a personal pastime I love to do. So Space 1999, The Full Circle, and it's interesting because I've sung Space 1999's praises. It's my favorite Anderson show, has been for a long, long time. But it is absolutely capable of some stinkers, which I think most fans know. I mean, most of the stinkers are in season 2.
Season 2, yeah.
Which is why The Full Circle for me is such a damning indictment on this, because season 1 is actually quite solid, in my opinion. Apart from this, what made Space 1999's first season so good was it was like this. It always had a really cerebral and atmospheric atmosphere to handle kind of grand cosmic themes. Relied on really considered and composed kind of exploration of lots of things, and then somehow this steaming pile of hot nuclear waste gets dumped on you. At the end of the episode, it feels like they're trying to say there was a point to the whole thing. Like Koenig, or I can't remember who makes it. It's either Koenig or Bergman said something like, maybe mankind has advanced since we were all cavemen. They're saying it as if we've just watched an episode that conveyed that in a way that felt meaningful, when actually we've just sat through 40 minutes of Martin Landau and Barbara Bain grunting at each other, and at Sienna Merton, poor girl, like they're chimpanzees or something. It just hasn't achieved anything even remotely astute or intelligent at all, in my opinion, because it's just so cringeworthy. Like, if people walked in whilst I was watching that, I would be embarrassed. I'd be like, do people think I think this is good? Because it's just embarrassing. Like, I'd sooner be caught watching like 50 Shades of Grey than this, because at least people would assume I was watching that ironically.
Have you seen that movie? That movie is dreadful.
There's so many continuity errors as well. Like, they walk into the mist and their Alpha uniforms change into these brown rags. And then somehow they come out and they're back to the uniforms again. What? How's that happened?
And also when Bergman and Party go in, their costumes don't change, do they? They're still in their Alpha uniforms for a bit. I don't know if this would be top 5, maybe top 10, but I've never really ranked them. I need to think about it. But I think I like it only in the sense that it's different. Because I always like TV shows where you will do different episodes, where not so much that you jump the shark. I don't think this jumped the shark per se, but I can see your point. This does have a season 2 sort of gimmick to it.
In terms of differences, I totally get your point. I quite enjoy the visuals of this episode, in terms of it's a rare opportunity in season 1 for them to go on location, but that's why I hate it, because it's a total missed opportunity. Like, they could have done something a lot more intelligent and a lot more sophisticated and a lot less embarrassing for the Landaus, in my opinion.
We've seen Martin Landau, who I think was quite good. I personally don't agree with Sylvia Anderson when she said that he wasn't good in the role. But I like the fact that we've seen him be very calm, very collected. He's clearly a leader. He knows what he's doing. Just to see him go completely against type and be unkept and grunting and violent, and I think just more from an acting perspective, to get to see something different. And also Barbara Bain looking all glamorous and everything, to see her looking like... But no, I can see your points. I mean, I like the character of Sandra. She's a bit dumb, though. She's speaking on the communicator with, the visual screen, and that caveman is clearly looking at the screen, and yet she's talking as if it's Alan. That just annoyed me. Bit dumb on that character, really. But although I think this was more playful rather than an actual love triangle, but I like the little teasing of Alan flirting with Sandra in front of Paul. So I like that particular pairing, in the same way that I actually like the Brains-Tintin pairing in episodes like Alias Mr. Hackenbacker and also Thunderbird 6. Everyone always goes to Alan and Tintin as the love interest.
She certainly gets around.
Whereas I actually kind of liked it when love interests are non-traditional.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that can be said for this episode, is, as you say, it just gives those characters a little bit of an opportunity to shine, because the Landaus are like, they're over on the floor pretending to be monkeys. So, you can have a go. And that's good, actually, because I'm so obsessed with Space 1999 to the point that I've read basically every fan fiction, every official fiction. So the ensemble cast is something I love on that show. So yeah. If we're trying to pay it one compliment, I will agree with that. So yeah, my fourth one is actually another Space 1999, which it's Rules of Luton. It's where all of the problems of season 2 are diluted into one terrible episode. They did this thing in season 2 where to save money, they start to split up the Landaus, And the thing is, I mean, in terms of that dynamic, as we talked about, in terms of it's sometimes a bit convoluted that the characters are split off from people. In this one, it's not so bad because there is a reason why it is just the two of them. But in terms of inside the plot, but production-wise, it's just annoying. Like I'd rather see an ensemble cast deal with this problem than just these two characters. Not that I don't like the characters; it's just not enough of them. But I mean, the other big problem here is that it's not just about like the characters; it's more just the fact that the premise is just like really dumb. In a way, it feels like they're trying to do the Star Trek episode. It's called Arena, where Kirk has the very iconic fight with the Gorn. Feels like they're trying to do that, but just failing miserably because the premise is so stupid. Like in Star Trek, that battle makes some sense because some cosmic being kind of puts the two factions together. Whereas in this, literally all that's happened is Koenig's eaten a berry and Maya's eating a flower, and then you get all these weird screamy noises. It's just like, you have broken the rules of Luton. It's so hard to buy into it. The whole setup is so stupid.
I'm glad you actually brought up the Arena in the Star Trek episode, because that plot, it was actually based on a short story by Frederick Brown, also called Arena, back in 1944. It was also used as an episode called Duel in Blake 7. It's actually my favorite episode of Blake 7. And also The Outer Limits had an episode called Fun and Games. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, they had an episode called The Arena. Then, of course, there's the Japanese movie Battle Royale.
Oh, of course, yeah. Love that.
And even in the comics, there was a Batman Judge Dredd crossover called The Ultimate Riddle, where the Riddler had trapped them in this arena, and Batman and Judge Dredd were fighting robots and mutants and whatnot in a battle arena scenario. So, yeah, Rules of Luton. When it comes to season 2 episodes, I probably would like this just because of that. Just the fact that it's a premise that is quite solid. It's executed quite bad. I can certainly see that. But I think it's one of those. It could have even worked as a season 1 episode if Bergman and Koenig were trapped on a planet. Just
you see, now that would be more suspenseful because Bergman's like an old man. You could have made the most of. I can't keep up, John. Go on without me. That would have been more interesting than him just doing it side by side with what is effectively a superhero. So, but I think as much as I actually really like Maya as a character, she was the wrong character to use in this episode. So I'm being harsh here probably, but. So in terms of the premise of the episode is strong, as we've discussed, in terms of it's got precedent where it's worked. That's why the episode is so destroyable, because to take a concept that should work and botch it this badly with a lot of lazy decisions, it takes a quite bad writing to botch this type of story. They couldn't even come up with something more interesting than the reason why the fight took place is because he ate a berry. My goodness, I mean that's just so there's nothing to it. And I mean there's a couple of other things they botch as well. Like there is one scene I kind of like where they have a bit of a heart to heart, and we discover that Kirk had a wife, and I like that. I think there's good things of that. It adds an interesting dimension to his relationship with Helena, because he actually says that his wife or Helena is like what his wife was like. This is the first time I think we hear of her on the show, so you could argue maybe it's jarring. I personally like it.
I don't know where they filmed it, because I actually quite like the location, wherever it was they filmed. I like the wood area. I like the quarry area. It's just I think that's just more on a cinematography sort of standpoint. But yeah, as a story, it's certainly not the worst one for me. I will always say that Brian the Brain, it's just so lame when you the highs of season 1.
My final episode to destroy is Fireball XL5's Flying Zodiac.
Yeah, this is a bit of a dud. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's like a fluff episode, but it's not even real. So as much as I'll praise Stingray's Christmas to Remember for going for some of those twee elements, the reason why those work is because they are combined with the tension that they build up over a very real situation. Whereas this has all of the silly stuff, like people doing circus acts and all sorts of dumb stuff, combined with a scenario we know isn't real. That just is so boring. And the other thing that is really odd is that I'm pretty sure this is the first episode they made with the space spies. So when they first used them, they're not the space spies yet. And so then if you watch in production order, which I mean, I know any 60s TV program, nobody really cared about this sort of thing. But, if you were in an arbitrary example, you're going to watch in production order. It's so weird. Why would she have a dream about the space spies being these kind of, they're like gypsy kind of invaders or whatever? Why would she imagine those people as them if she's not actually technically met the space spies? But then what's also weird is when you then meet the space spies in the next episode, Steve Zodiac knows exactly who they are. So at some point she's seen them, but in Flying Zodiac, the first time we've seen them, they're just
there is a reason. I know the reason, don't worry. Yeah, because I hate it. It's so clunky how they put. Funny enough, in the transmission order, Spy in Space does come first. It's like episode 5, and then Flying Zodiac's like episode 10 or something. But yeah, always in the production order, Flying Zodiac comes first. The reason why is because they weren't the space spies in Flying Zodiac. They were just generic villains. But then when it came to Spy in Space, they decided to reuse these puppets, then just call them the space spies. And then afterwards, even though it wasn't originally written as the space spies in Flying Zodiac, they have retroactively like updated the production notes saying these are the space spies. So they should have just swapped them around. I know but there was that reason though. So technically, you could argue that they only did 3 episodes with the space spies, but because obviously the Flying Zodiac was not the original plan, but they have retroactively changed it so that it is the space spies, but at the time it wasn't. So it was just so convoluted. But one thing that annoys me also about the production order, the actual order of the space spies, I don't like the fact that they appear in 4 episodes so close together. They're in Flying Zodiac, which is episode 10, Spy in Space, which is episode 12, technically. Actually, no, that's another can of worms. Right. Because, right, I'm gonna got to go all the way back to the beginning. When they were released on video in the 90s, it goes Flying Zodiac is episode 10, Spy in Space is episode 12, Convict in Space is episode 14, and then Space Pen is episode 15. So they're all fairly close together. But then when A&E released them on DVD in America, they changed it. So it became Flying Zodiac 10, Spy in Space 11, then it was Space Pen is episode 15, and Convict in Space was 16. And then when Network released them on DVD over here, they swapped it around again, where they made sure that Spy in Space came before Flying Zodiac. So there's all this messing around. Now, I personally follow the 90s order, where it's 10, 12, 14, and 15. Yeah, and then what was my point? Yeah, also the fact that they appear in 4 episodes, and they're all close together. And then after their 4th appearance, they just vanish from the rest of the show. At least with the Subterraneans, they spaced them out by having them in episodes 1, 17, 27, and 38. So you can watch the whole show and you keep being reminded about them. But the Space Spies, by the time you get to the end of Fireball XL5, we've kind of forgotten about them because we haven't seen them since 15. I don't know why they had them so close together. Why they couldn't space them out is beyond me.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, they're a bit hit and miss, I think, as villains.
I don't like them at all.
But I actually quite like Convict in Space, where you get to see them stabbed in the back. Growth and Deblis, I mean, how did he only get 1 episode? He's quality, and he's a classic example where David Graham's voice artistry is used really masterfully because he sounds really sinister. They should have used him more. I think. But then the dynamic of him with the space spies, that works really, really well. And of course, you just don't get any of that in Flying Zodiac. And in terms of, you think about how early in production they made this, 39 episodes. And at that stage, they're already doing dream episodes. It feels like you'd be a bit worried. I'd be a bit worried if I was the producer on that, and that's the scripts that were coming to me after like 9 or 10 episodes. That really we're going to dream this early, because there's dreams in all of the Anderson stuff, but they're usually a lot later when it would be a lot more understandable that they've started to run out of ideas. It doesn't take much to destroy that episode.
Professor.
And now we've come to the end of Dave's Keep and Destroy. Nice choice of episodes, and wow, you've had a hell of a lot to say. It's
Apologies.
No, don't worry. It's I can just sit back and just listen and enjoy. So no, thank you very much. It's been great. But I do have one question before you go. I do know that outside of Gerry Anderson, you're an editor for Fantasy Football Scouts. I have to ask, if you were to handpick a dream team using Gerry Anderson characters, who would you have lined up?
Oh, what a question. So I understand, what's my limit here? Are we going top 5, top 10?
Yeah, we'll go with 5.
Yeah, so I think if we're looking for a goalkeeper, then I think you'd want someone who has very long arms. I mean, to be honest, some of the dancing you get in Stingray involves quite a lot of very weird arm usage. So we'll probably go with Troy Tempest in goal. We'll have who should we have up front? Someone who's ruthless. We'll have Titan up front as the striker.
I don't think they'd be playing nicely, those two.
Well, but I mean, sometimes teammates don't, Yeah, but I'll tell you what, we'll go with Commander Koenig as the central midfield player, the kind of guy that holds it all together. I feel like if you needed someone to police Troy Tempest and Titan in a war of kind of we need to pull together, John Koenig, I would look no further than him. He would be my go-to leader. If you want someone to make some strong tackles in defense, again, you need someone who absolutely loves hurting people. So let's go. Who really likes hurting people? Let's go with the Hood. He'd play in defense. And as the additional kind of box-to-box midfielder, so someone who can sometimes help defend, sometimes help attack. You need someone who's very versatile, has the opportunity to do lots of different things, knows how to do them professionally and expertly. So it'd have to be Virgil Tracy, who obviously is the most versatile, most flexible member of International Rescue.
One keeper explodes. The next one is arrested.
I wanna see a lawyer!
This is just the kind of start we don't need.
Thank you again for your time, Dave. It's been a great list, and I've enjoyed it, so thank you so much.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, thanks for having me on. As you said, I had a lot to say, so you can tell I've been waiting a long time to get my opportunity to praise and critique Gerry Anderson where possible.
Thank you again for watching this video. Please give it a like and a share and a subscribe. If you would like to donate to the show, please go to Buy Me a Coffee or GoFundMe. The links are in the description. This is Adam Lough, signing out.
Express train. Approaching tunnel now.